Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Pastor B. You know that no matter how much you believe in yourself, no matter how much you believe even in God, there will be people who will seek to tear you down, especially when you fall. Coach Prime is the key example of that right now in the culture. And we're going to talk about what lessons we can learn from Coach Prime and what's happened with his Colorado football team. So, right now, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the episode. Sit tight and we'll get started right now. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Living from Sunday to Sunday podcast. I'm your host, Pastor B. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I believe that this is going to be the best 15 minutes of your day because it only takes 15 minutes to produce real change in your life. So, again, thank you for listening to today's episode. One of the more recent phenomena in the world of sports and Black culture right now is the rise of Deion Sanders, aka Coach Prime. He is the head football coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, a college football team in the Pac-12, I believe. And the reason why his story is so fascinating right now is that he has a level of confidence and a level of audaciousness that is both contagious and attractive, and it is rubbing people the wrong way. And I think it's just fascinating, man, that when you have a level of confidence that is borderline cocky, borderline irrational, that is counter to what people expect you to be. It's crazy to me how easily people get upset, even when they don't even understand the lane that you're walking in, right? Um, Having confidence as a CEO, having confidence as a middle manager in a for for a restaurant, um, being a leader in the boardroom, confidence looks one way in those arenas. But when you're talking about football and you're talking about the world of sports, um, confidence also looks a different way as well. And for those people who are on the outside looking in, of course, there is we are the loudest objectors. Again, whenever we're talking about arenas that we don't even really understand fully, right? And so, like, if you kind of go back to the beginning of course, Colorado last year went 1-11, right? 1-11, the worst team, the worst record in the Pac-12. And so last year, Coach Prime was at Jackson State. I think they went 11-2, I believe, last year. And so he, told the world that he was going to Colorado. And from the very beginning, he ruffled feathers by telling the returning student athletes on that 1-11 team. He said, "Y'all gonna have to find somewhere else to play. You're gonna have to hit the transfer portal because, in Dion's words, he needed to change the culture at the school, and you can't change the culture if people are accustomed to losing. You can't change the culture if people are accustomed to not doing what it takes to succeed." And what I find so amazing about that quote is that many times we want change, we want to improve and we want to achieve great things. But oftentimes we're not willing to have difficult conversations and be blanketly honest with ourselves. And and so he was honest from the jump. He basically says these players aren't good enough in order for us to get to where we want to get to. They're not good enough, right? And so, some of the players got mad, their parents got mad, um, opponents of the school said that this will never work. And what's funny is that, you know, Coach Prime didn't come to Colorado by himself. You know, he brought luggage with him, according to his words, right? So he brought his son, he brought Travis Hunter, and some other like really great talented players um, with him, and there wasn't a lot of belief in what Prime was doing, right? And yet his confidence was unshakable, right? The challenge to us is if our life isn't going the way that we want it to go, do we have the faith, the audacity to clean house and to start in an entirely new direction? If I realize that my money and the way that I save and the way that I manage my money is not working, am I willing to completely um, throw away everything that I know about money and seek to learn a new way? Seek to adjust my entire programming of how I understand money and how it works. If my relationship isn't working, if I'm too self centered, if I don't know how to communicate well, am I honest enough to admit these things and learn from someone who has gone through similar storms and learned how to navigate, learn how to communicate, learn how to express themselves, right? Because the worst thing we can ever do is to know that we're headed for a cliff and be content with destroying ourselves, right? Self sabotage is one of those things that um, internally we know that we're hurting ourselves. We know that we are potentially derailing our future, but something in our minds tells us that we'll be able to survive. There's very few people who have fallen off of a cliff going full speed who have survived, and that's what self sabotage is. Is basically taking the brakes off of the train that's headed for a cliff and just sitting in the seat and just not even thinking to jump off the train, not even believing that you're worth that your life is worth saving, that is worth preserving, right? And so, you know, Coach Prime was audacious with that, right? Like I said, it rubbed a whole lot of people the wrong way. And what I also know is that people don't understand your vision, right? And when people come against the vision that you have, when people come against the plan of God for your life, they're coming against it. They're coming against it primarily because they don't see it. They don't believe it. Like there's no way that God can do that for you. What you're saying, you believe God for. There's no way that He would do that for you, right? Prime, Coach Prime, from the very beginning of this particular season, he stated that we're not running from anybody, right? That the only people that matter are the people in this room, and that um, we're not coming, we're here. That's been their motto, right? We're not coming, we're here. And so many people predicted that they would win like 2 games, 3 games max, right? And so we are in week 4 of the college football season, and their record is 3-1, right? And what's often what often happens in competitive sports for sure is that there's always one person, always one team, one player, one coach that speak much more trash talk than they're able to back up, right? And so um, the first game of the year, I think, was against an opponent that wasn't. I think it was against Nebraska. I think, and they played very well. Second opponent, I can't remember who they played, but it wasn't as on the same level as Nebraska, right? And so they start off 2-0, and the third game of the season is against Colorado State. This particular coach um, made it personal, according to Coach Prime. Um, talking about how Prime was leading his men, and he was showcasing and showboating and being, very brash. And if you know Deion Sanders, he's always been a talker. He's always been flashy. He's always had the utmost irrational confidence, right? So when you see him as a coach, you shouldn't expect it to be any different, right? And so that the coach from Colorado State talked mad noise, mad crazy, right? And he couldn't back it up, right? And so, everybody was riding high because again, this is the same team that only won one game the previous year. And now they opened up the season 3-0. And so the confidence is through the roof, right? Everybody is hyped on this Colorado team. Unfortunately, they lose a star player in their game. And so the next week they play a powerhouse in Oregon. And the question becomes, whenever you're faced with opposition, do you have the ability to keep the same level of confidence when you lose? Because boy, did Colorado lose. They got smacked in the mouth, 42-6, right? But it was so interesting that Coach Prime did not let up. Like his confidence never wavered, right? He understood what he had. He understood where he's trying to go. And he admitted that right now I don't have everything that I need. I still have about 6 or 7 more high profile players that we need to get in order for us to really achieve these goals, right? But yet his confidence never wavered, right? And so that's what I think is important is whenever you're on the mountaintop and everything is working and it's easy to be confident, it's easy to be brash, it's easy to have faith, it's easy to believe in what God told you and who he told you to be. Are you able to translate that same level of confidence, that same level of belief in not just yourself, but in what God said whenever you're down, whenever you've fallen, whenever everyone now is ridiculing you for having such confidence in God? Where is your God now? Yeah, you loved him whenever you was winning, but now he seemed like he's abandoned you because look at how embarrassing um, your defeat is. You're not as good as you thought, right? And so all of these negative thoughts, all of these um, demeaning words whenever you're falling, God hasn't changed, right? And so because he hasn't changed, our confidence in him shouldn't change. And Prime's confidence in both himself and his team and the organization has stayed the same. And so that's the lesson that Coach Prime has taught me is that I must remain confident in who God is, who he told me I am, and what he told me I would do. Right. And so even on the mountaintop and in the valley, God is still there. His truth still remains. And we can't lose sight of the truth, even when opposition seems to overwhelm us and our present doesn't look like the promise. All right. Be audacious in your faith. Be strong. Be loud. Be bold. and trust that the Lord will carry you through. All right. All right. Well, listen, thank you for listening to today's episode. Of course, this podcast can be found everywhere where they are available, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Good Pods, wherever you listen to podcasts, or YouTube. You may be watching me as well on YouTube. So make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And listen, go to the show notes right now and click on the link to subscribe to be a paid monthly subscriber. It's as little as $3 a month. What you'll get with this subscription is just some additional meditations, some additional insights, as well as you get to support what we're building here at the Living from Sunday to Sunday podcast. All right. So listen, until next week, thank y'all so much for listening, and we'll see you when we see you. Bye, y'all. Thank you for listening to the Living from Sunday to Sunday podcast. All episodes are available everywhere where podcasts can be found. Make sure that you like the show, download, and subscribe so you won't miss out on any of the future episodes. Remember, real change happens between Sundays. Talk to you soon.